Mom and Dad, I was just gonna say.
Well,
You live in it?
Ricky Stenhouse owns his car. Yeah.
All right, guys, it's 7 p.m. I want to welcome you all to the regular city council meeting scheduled for Thursday, August 11th. And we do not have a pastor available this evening. So, Mrs. Roth, if you wouldn't mind giving the invocation, and if you all could please stand with us, that would be awesome.
Heavenly Father, we confess our dependence on you. Thank you for extending abundance, mercy, and protection to our nation. Every resource, freedom, and opportunity we have is a gift from you. Pour out your Holy Spirit on those who govern our land, leaders of our nation, our state, and our community. Open their minds with wisdom and compassion so all people may be treated fairly and with dignity. Open their eyes to see how best to respond and open their hearts with courage to do the right thing, even when persuaded to do otherwise. Dawn a new day of integrity and servant leadership upon our land. Shower down your spirit of collaboration for the common good, and that there be lasting peace and plenty for all. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Young got in a fight with some poison ivy, so he is unfortunately not going to be able to make it tonight. But is he joining online? He said he was going to try if he could.
I don't have them yet.
Okay, so he may join us later online, so we'll keep an eye on that. And with that, Madam Deputy Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Ms. North? Here. Mr. Van Hatten?
Here.
Ms. Roth?
Here.
Mr. Peel?
Here.
And Mr. Young is not here. Mayor, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda, and I move to approve the agenda as stated unless any staff has any changes.
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to the citizen participation period. If you could step up to the microphone and state your name and your address, that would be great. First person on the agenda is Mr. Rodolfo Arevalo.
Rodolfo Arevalo, 19419 West 200th Street, Spring Hill. I had a couple of questions. It is really in reference to item 9 on your action agenda. One, as I looked at the documentation that was provided, it indicated on the first page that 2.7 was coming from the state or the federal government, wherever this agency is, and the city had to put up 3.3 million. Okay? As I look at the charts at the end of the document, it only accounts for 3.7 million rather than 6 million if I add the two first numbers together. So I didn't know how much was really going to be expended, is my question. The other is that the document also states that our contribution to 3.3 million will be paid for by using property tax off that land, the Grisel land. And so my question is, has anybody done the numbers in terms of what impact it will have to use the property tax off that land to pay for the 3.3 million? Because when you begin to do that, it means you can't use the property tax for general operating of the city. So therefore, it's going to require an increase in mill levy to pay for it. Those are my two questions.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm sure those and probably a lot of other things will be answered during that presentation later on in the agenda. Next, we have Mr. Steve Boswell.
Hi, Steve Boswell, 504 North Jackson. Recently, we've been, well, not recently, for the past 6 months, we've been dealing between me and my neighbors a large puddle, per se, of water standing in the yards and flooding our yards as well. Well, we finally got to a head where we found out, we went with the city engineer, city, I'm sorry,
Public Works.
Public Works, the boss of the Public Works, if that's him, I'm not sure, I'm very terrible with facial recognition. Anyway, and Brandon, the codes enforcement guy, were all out there, and swore up and down that there was no water lines whatsoever in this area. Lo and behold, for some reason, the city of Spring Hill thought it was appropriate to, allow a construction permit to go directly over our water line and built a house right on our line that goes to the main feed. Our house is on Jackson Street, and the main feed where our meter is on King Street. Now, they say that there's no water service on Jackson Street, and I can understand maybe it's outdated or whatnot and needs to be updated, but I don't understand why there's fire hydrants on Jackson Street if they're not used, or if there's no water to them. And the other problem is that it is my impression that the city wants me to use the city's easement to dig a new line from from King Street to my house on Jackson Street, even though the city was the one that allowed them to build a house over my existing water line at the time. The house in question was built in 1976. My house was built in 1956. So there's a break in the pipe. We fixed it. I've got pictures. It literally runs directly diagonally under their house. My insurance company has been notified. They will no longer insure us because it is unsafe. You can't have a water line running underneath somebody's foundation. So we have to get the water line moved, and as far as I'm understood, that means the city of Spring Hill is going to have to bring a water line down to our property through the city's easement, and then we tie into it from there. And we need to do this post haste because we need to continue our insurance for our homeowners insurance. So just a little something to throw out there, and there's apparently a lot of houses in the old side of Spring Hill that are set up like that. So maybe the council needs to start looking at some proactive things, considering they signed not this council, but this city signed all of the building permits for every house built on this side. So that they can not have to worry about liabilities and sinkholes underneath houses and stuff, because apparently my house is not the only one they've done this to. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and the only thing else is that a quick action would be greatly appreciated. We've already had a plumber come out as of today, and should have been contacting the city to try to coordinate. And I hope that the city does not try to make our contractor dig in their easement. So that would be illegal. So anyway, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, sir. I will discuss this with Pat, and we'll try to come up with a solution. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Will Steckline.
Will Steckline, 19321 West 199th Terrace. My topic is not to do with the agenda, but I do want to point out what he just said. I live in Brookwood Farms on 199th. We're having a new subdivision built next to us. I think they're slab houses or crawl spaces. They did just hit a water line putting in a foundation there, and it was a 6-inch water line, and it knocked our whole neighborhood out of service. So it does make a good point of why are they putting a crawl space on top of a water main? Seems kind of weird because now they patch that, they fix that line. Well, everybody knows patches don't last forever. They usually go bad. I mean, I lived in Osawatomie and they fix patches every other day. So that house could be flooded one day as soon as that patch gives out, which who knows? I mean, we keep having a drought. It might settle a lot, but my topic though is solar panels. I'm having an issue right now with HOA not approving my solar panels. I put them on my house. I never seen any verbiage on, usually all the, I don't know what you wanna call them, declarations are like written out in paragraphs, so it's very easy to find stuff. Well, solar panels is written solar panel inside of FM antennas or ham radios or all the, whatever the FCC approved that you could have. So I put solar panels on my house, trying to be energy efficient, lower my bills, and got a violation that I am not allowed to have solar panels. These declarations were written in 2006, I believe. So they are 14, 16 years plus old, which also brings up a question: is the developers still have possession of our, or control of our neighborhood? How long does a developer get to finish a subdivision in Spring Hill? Like, it seems like they could drag this on forever. Like, hey, 2008, we had a housing crash. Let's stop building and just let these people live with these weeds. And it's in development. Can't do nothing to them. Like, how long can they have control of Spring Hill citizens? And it's not an issue. I'm gonna continue to fight it. Like, my whole point is, can Spring Hill adopt, which a lot of states are now, solar access laws? Cities are doing it because they can't get it passed through states necessarily. And that would, it's just like the FCC blocked HOAs from not having satellite dishes because a consumer should have possession of a utility. There's not a monopoly in cable TV or whatever. I think satellite dishes are ugly. I don't like them, but I get somebody else wants them. So I understand it. It's an option to have. I mean, I don't know any bigger utility than solar panels. I mean, it's 100%. You're producing your own electricity. Like, how does that not fall under that for an HOA? My whole point is, I would like Spring Hill to have some kind of control over the developers of what you can tell your citizens to do or not do. I mean, every development is be built with an HOA. I mean, they're controlling every single subdivision. We have no choice. Somebody told me to move. And it's like, well, where do you want me to move to? Like, I'm not gonna go buy a $600,000 house, which that's maybe my house appraises at that now. I'm not gonna go buy something that outrageous. Like, it just, to me, it's like, why can't we talk about it? If you're not gonna talk about it, I'm gonna have to find other options. If you're gonna deny my request to get solar panels, I'm gonna try the city. Like, this is my next step. Also, the developer thing, it's kind of weird to me that we don't control the developers more. It's almost like we're like, we need you guys, please, whatever you want, we'll give you, whatever you need to do it. And now we have no control. The developers pretty much do what they want because they were the ones providing the financing, the risk of building these houses. But they also gain everything from building these houses. But Woodland Ridge is all electrical. I looked in there when I was gonna buy a house in 2018 until I seen their electric bills of $800 a month or whatever somebody's was that I looked at, which is ridiculous to me. Like, how can people afford that right now when our property taxes went up 20% in the last 2 years. I just think it's not fair for them to be controlled on solar panels either. They have no choice. They don't have gas. Like, how can we let a builder restrict those citizens from getting gas and having efficient heat instead of a electric heat? There's a brand new subdivision. I think the biggest concern of people is it's gonna bring down the property value. But it's only in times that we're in right now, it's showing that it's increasing property value. That somebody's investing $50,000 in solar panels. I didn't, mine are $6,000, I'm doing it myself, but people that do invest $50,000, they're investing a ton of money for that electricity to be produced to that house, so the property value thing I don't think's a issue anymore. You can go look at 171st and Black Bob, I think it is. Those houses are selling right now for $800,000, and they're allowed to have solar panels. And that declaration was written in 2019. I just feel like some of these builders are stuck in their old ways and it's this way or no way. If you don't like it, move. Like, no, I'm not gonna move. Like, I don't know. I just would like to see if we can look at ordinances. I pulled up a ton of ordinances from cities and states that pass things that maybe we can look at adopting instead of spending a bunch of money of our lawyer drawing up something. Just adopting somebody else's like we did with the golf carts. I mean, that's it. Back to Boswell, I think that is pretty important to look at too.
Okay.
The 6-inch water main under somebody's foundation, I don't know how you get away with that. Like, the other thing with the developers, I went and friends bought a house in Dayton Creek, and I went and looked at their house for them just to inspect it. I'm pretty handy at things. And I noticed their deck is the staircase that goes down to the concrete. It looks like they poured their 4x4 slab after they built the stairs, and then they pushed concrete as far as they can. Well, their supports that go into the ground and their anchors have no concrete. It's almost like they tried shoving it back in there and then there's nothing anchoring it. Are we inspecting these houses after, are we giving them a final approval and then they come back and pour concrete? Like, I don't know how that happens, but we definitely need to tighten that up because builders are just gonna slap together what they want, and people, most of these homeowners don't know what they're doing. So they look at something, they think it's fine because we signed off on a final inspection for a developer that we trust was doing good for our citizens. That's it.
All right, thank you, sir. I will just speak a little bit on the solar panel thing. I've actually spent the last couple weeks studying solar panels. I was asked to, for some of you that might not know, the school partnered with Energy Link and Evergy to put in a big, huge, massive solar array panel area out at the high school. And so they asked me to be at the ribbon cutting and kind of speak on it. So I don't ever like to speak on something that I'm not pretty educated on. So I spent a lot of time studying it, and it was really cool how learning a lot about the panels and how that whole process works and how much energy it generates and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
My neighbor across the street has solar panels. He's had it for 3 or 4 years. We're in the village, and it's non-HOA, and it's also all electric, so we have no gas. So that's at least one example of a homeowner that's got, they don't have to fight an HOA. He didn't have to fight an HOA, but.
And I'm not in a subdivision, and I'm all electric. Now I'm also a construction guy, and so I designed it to where, you know, I have a big heat pump and stuff like that. So my electric bills are nowhere near that. Mine are actually pretty affordable. But now my wife loves cooking, so she wishes I would have put gas in. So looking back on that, maybe I should have. All right. Is there anyone, that's everybody on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to step up and say anything? If not, we'll go ahead and move on from there. So at this time, we'll end the citizen participation and we'll move on to the consent agenda. And with that, I entertain, most of these items in the consent agenda are just standard procedural items. With that, I move to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. The first item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2022-R-17, amending resolution 2019-R-28 to relocate to the ACH services agreement with the State Bank of Spring Hill. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Thank you. I won't belabor this one. It's pretty straightforward. When you made me finance director, I need to be added to the ACH agreement so I can call the bank and pay the employees and pay bills and things like that. And I ask that you approve this resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the ACH agreement for the State Bank of Spring Hill.
Any questions on that? Like she said, pretty straightforward. With that, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-R-17, amending resolution 2019-R-28 related to the ACH services agreement with the State Bank of Spring Hill.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2022-R-18, adopting a property management policy for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. And Mrs. Dunn, this is also you.
That's right. I'm glad mine are all together, one trip, and just get them all handled. We're asking tonight for the council to consider approving this resolution that will create a property management policy for the city of Spring Hill. This is really something that should have probably been done some time back, and it's a little bit of housekeeping for us to put this policy in place. But using, as we go into the next item, and the base grant award does require, under federal regulation, receiving a grant award, that we have a formal property management policy in place, and your action tonight will take care of that requirement. The point of the property management agreement, and it does take a team to put all this together. It's been reviewed by Mr. Dunlay as well as the bond attorney. They've all checked what we're doing. We borrowed this from the Department of Commerce from the state of Kansas. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We utilized pretty standard policy that they use regularly for grants. This would create policies and guidelines which, under the guidance of the city administrator, it'll be his responsibility to see that it's carried out, and mine to see that the records are in place. And it'll basically give us internal control safeguards, more sufficient records, how we dispose of property that's obtained through federal money, things like that. And so we're asking tonight, there is no budget impact here. We can talk about alternatives, but we're hoping tonight that you would approve resolution number 22-R-18 and adopt a property management policy for the city of Spring Hill. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Would it be fair to say that this is basically saying that we're gonna follow all the rules when we get grant money?
Yes.
That, you know, that they give us, whether it's Fed or state money, no matter, we have an official policy now that says we're gonna follow the rules that they give us. With
You know,
what you can
in-
spend it on and what categories of items and things like that.
Can we sell it?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
things like
How do you
that.
discharge it if you get rid of it, all, you know?
It also eliminates city staff saying, oh, well, we want to sell this, or, oh, we don't need that anymore. And we then have a written policy to go to, not a, well, last time this is what we did, or I remember this one time we did that. It puts it down in black and white rules for us to follow, a policy for us to use. Mr. Dunlay, did I leave anything out?
To be clear, the policy in question complies with the uniform guidelines for grant money. It is specific to ARPA funds. However, it's compliant with the uniform guidelines for grant money. It is for federal monies. State monies are covered by this state statute, and already the city must follow statute to dispose of property. This specifically deals with federal money and pass-through money from the state. So that is an important point. So it does cover both of those, as Councilmember Peel pointed out.
Any more questions?
I'm all good.
No more questions or comments. I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-R-18, adopting a uniform grant property management policy for the city of Spring Hill.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agreement is consider consider approval of award agreement between the city and the Kansas Department of Commerce for the Webster Road Base Grant. And Mrs. Dunn, this is also you.
That's right. All these things fit together. What we're doing tonight is the attorneys have reviewed the base agreement grant with the Department of Commerce. Earlier this year, city staff worked with the developer at the, I always have to look it up so I don't say it incorrectly.
Wiswell.
Yes, the Wiswell property, a great development for Spring Hill. They worked together to partner to apply for the grant, and in April, we were awarded a $2.7 million grant for the extension of Webster Street north from 199th to 191st Street. It is a $2.7 million grant, and the entire project is a $6 million project. When the meeting is over, I'd be happy to see the figures that he's talking about. I haven't seen those differences. I expect it to be a $6 million project, and 2.7 million will come from the grant. This agreement does not obligate, the city is committing to the project, but it does not obligate how you would fund the rest of this project. For example, we can use rural housing incentive, we can use special benefit districts and different opportunities with your bonds and your long-term debt when that time comes. And tonight, you're not obligating yourself to anything beyond the agreement for the grant. The, like I said, it has been reviewed. It is an agreement between the city and the Department of Commerce. I think that I have covered the big picture there. I will address one thing that the gentleman brought up about using property tax. The way that would work if we use a special benefit district, property taxes would have a special assessment put on those properties in the project, and that additional tax would be assessed of those properties only, not the rest of Spring Hill. And we're not going to the general fund for the taxpayers' dollars to fund this project. The development will be funded by the people and the businesses that occupy it. We will not tie up our normal property taxes, and as a matter of fact, the property taxes generated out there would be put in the coffers of the general fund as we normally do. And the additional money needed for this, a special district, would come from those property owners out there in addition to their regular property tax. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
And they would
welcome.
utilize excise tax as well.
Yes, and we'll get the base that we're to have on those new properties, and they will pay additional to pay the debt for the development.
So the special benefit district and the RHID don't exempt those properties from their normal annual ad valorem tax that they would give property tax every year.
That's, as I understand it,
Is
yes.
what you're talking about is what goes into the general
Right.
fund.
Yes,
So they're still gonna pay that as well, and then there's this other,
additional assessment,
yes,
yes. And that only applies to the properties in that district,
right.
not the rest of the city.
So it should have no effect on the mill.
That's right.
Right.
And you will get to make those decisions further down the road on how you fund things and being mindful of,
Right.
clearly, other citizens aren't going to fund that project.
And the money generated from the SBD and the RHID pays the 3.3 million, which is our piece of the $6 million project for the road.
That is correct. That is how you've done it with other projects.
Right.
If some other alternative comes up, we'd look at the best fit when the time comes.
And that was also reiterated at the last meeting that we had, correct? Right?
Yes.
Yep.
And that you're in control of each step. You'll decide how the funding is. You'll decide the RHID. Which, did we approve that last time, it seems like?
Think
We
so.
approved one. I don't remember if it was this
The
project.
last 2 meetings, yeah.
Right. So, and you will get to vote all along the way on how this progresses.
I think I thought I heard you say that it doesn't obligate us to anything beyond the base grant money, but it does obligate us to the $6 million project.
That is correct.
How we fund our piece of it, we're not obligated to
No.
anything yet.
Right.
Which our plans are the SBD and the RHID,
Yes.
but
Standard procedures.
it does this does obligate us to funding that money. at
The
3.3.
project. When you accept the money, you're committing to the project.
Yep.
And I did see somebody in the audience raising their hand, but at this time, we've ended the citizen participation period, so.
I would ask,
Unfortunately, we're not gonna take any other questions.
right, I would ask, either Tyler,
I just wanted a clarification. I'm listed down as for item 9.
We're not taking any questions or any, at this time. That would have to be done during citizen participation period. Thank you.
That's not the way your regulations are written.
All right, any other further?
I didn't know if Mr. Dunlay or, Mr. Ellsworth had something that I didn't cover or that they wanted to add. They have been reviewing,
Yeah.
and working on these agreements for us.
Mr. Ellsworth, you got something to add? Sure. Go ahead.
I'm able to address Mr. Arevelo's question, his first question about the discrepancy
Sure.
between the $3.65 million project figure that's in the exhibits to the base grant and the $6 million that's in the agenda review sheet. The state's paperwork and the schedules that they provide to the base grant agreement don't ask for the total project cost on the city's books or as the city looks at the project. This, in the award agreement, the project is basically defined as the $2.7 million grant that the state is providing, plus approximately $900,000 or $950,000 of developer matching funds, which are outside of the base grant money and the city's $3.3 million contribution. So that maybe muddies the water more than necessary, but I did want to address the fact that it is a $6 million project. The 3.6 is the total of the $2.7 million grant from the state and the developer's separate $950,000 contribution. So hopefully that helps
Hopefully that
clarify.
clears up a couple of your questions that were asked earlier.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for either Tyler or Mrs. Dunn? Or Mr. Ellsworth? Mr. Dunley, did you have something to add?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
What? Good. Then I would ask that you, approve the award agreement made between the city and the Department of Commerce for the, Webster Road Base Grant.
I move to approve execution and delivery of an award agreement between the city and the Kansas Department of Commerce in connection with the base grant for the Webster Road project.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. All right, you can take a break. Thank you. Next item is consider the approval of engineering agreement, design and construction contract administration of North Lincoln Street Reconstruction Phase 1 and Phase 2 and Lamp Rynerson, Inc. Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Come before you and the council this evening, consider approval of an engineering agreement for design and construction, contract administration of the North Lincoln Street Reconstruction Project. North Lincoln, as you know, serves as the industrial portion of Spring Hill, runs from 207th Street on the north end to a cul-de-sac south of the railroad tracks. The condition of the street is very poor, and the city has been attempting some phased improvements to replace it over time, which has been really difficult due to staffing problems and other issues. So we're looking at reconstructing it in a more typical fashion where we would fund the project through the city's normal CIP process and do it in two phases. South of the railroad tracks would be one phase. North of the railroad tracks would be the other phase. It's essentially reconstructing the concrete roadway in kind, with the exception of at 207th Street. The curb returns, the intersection there is highly inadequate for all the large semi-trucks that turn there, so we're gonna do some curb return improvements, try to widen that intersection out and make it more usable for the many trucks a day that go through that intersection. The agreements is in accordance with Section 3 of your purchasing policy and with the on-call engineering agreement with Lamp Rynerson, and has been reviewed by the city attorney. The total cost of reconstructing North Lincoln is conservatively estimated at about $1.1 million. It could be built as one or two projects. We are prepared to design it as two if we need to, but we could combine it if we can find that money. The design agreement presented at this meeting is well below our original budget estimate for the project. So at this point, staff recommends the governing body authorize Mayor Berkeley and city staff to execute the agreement with Lamprey Nearson for design and construction contract administration of the North Lincoln Street reconstruction. We do have the, I didn't have I think Jackie has kind of a picture and a total project cost detail, but we have the agreement in here and then maybe the project cost estimate. I don't think I got that in here. But I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
I just got a quick one. You're saying splitting it into phases north of the railroad, but the railroad runs north-south.
There's a railroad spur that crosses Lincoln.
So
Goes into, I don't know if it goes into the pet food.
go on in here, and then there's a railroad here that goes to.
I think it goes in.
It's a little jog off the main.
And a fair amount of the middle part of Lincoln's been reconstructed, has been done already over the past few years. The longest stretch of it is to the south.
There's a north and a south, and that's the division.
Okay. I just kept looking at the railroad and
Right, the main line
I
goes
couldn't
east.
find your
You're
divider.
thinking the railroad track.
Yeah, it's not the main track.
It's a spur.
Any other questions or comments? Did you say that one of the two of you, either you or Mr. Messer, have a cost on
The total cost is
1.1?
1.1. We've got a detailed breakdown on that.
Okay.
We did some cost estimating to get to this point, so the city would be informed of all that. Pretty much when you folks ask me to look at designing something, the first thing I do is do a cost estimate to see what we're up against.
I know the businesses down there. I've talked to quite a few of the owners, and they'll be very glad to have this done. It's been a-
as I understand it, they have made their feelings, I think they thought it would be done before now, and
I think we all thought it would be done. It's
Yeah,
something
and
that's
it-
been
you know,
going
it
on
was-
for years.
It was just a job that ended up taking more effort than I think.
It's been a long time coming, getting this taken care of.
I do know that Mr. Messer has gotten some of the guys. They have filled some of the holes temporarily and stuff here recently in the last couple of weeks. And I did talk to one of the owners today, and he said that has made a big difference. Just even that. So.
Right, and we do have a repair project we tore out a couple 100 feet of it, and we do have a repair project that's gonna go on in the next months to take care of that. So that'll be done certainly before winter, and then we'll, when we can budget the money for this, we'll build it at an appropriate time, the rest of it.
Any other questions or comments?
I think it's a much needed improvement. They've been waiting a long time, the business owners, so.
And if any of you guys have ever driven down, I drive it about once a week just to kind of see how it is every week. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough.
We gotta start somewhere on roads.
Yeah,
This one's as good as any.
and has a lot of use every day.
Yeah, I don't wanna make up statistics, but this might be one of the most used roads, definitely for commercial. So yeah, definitely.
Right,
well
it
needed.
and 207s, because of course, everything that
Right.
goes out of Lincoln goes on to
Yeah.
207th Street, or, we, engineers work on roadway loading, we work in easels, equivalent single axle loads, and you got a lot of easels on those streets.
And most of the complaints, actually, when I've talked to the owners of different businesses, most of the complaints are actually from their employees.
Yeah.
And their employee vehicles, not necessarily the semi-trucks, because semi-trucks are big and can handle, a few potholes. But it's the wear and tear on the citizens' vehicles that have to drive in and out of there every day, so.
Did you mention improving the intersection?
The south side curb returns, yes,
So where's that at?
207th,
Right at 207.
Yes.
The turn in.
yes.
And is that included in the 1.1, or is
Yes.
that gonna be separate? Okay.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the engineering agreement for design and construction contract administration of North Lincoln Street, reconstruction phase 1 and phase 2 with Lamprey Nearson.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the next item and consider the approval of repairs to the Salt Dome. And Mr. Messer, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. As you can see from the pictures and the documentation I sent, this is a issue that's been forever out there. I think they tried to use the CIP to do a project for years and it never was funded, and it was, I think, a little bit more expensive than what we're looking at. Yeah, we call it the salt dome. It's in very poor condition. From the pictures you saw, the piles of salt that are in there are trash. We can't even use them because of the mud. It's about ready to go in the next windstorm. We haven't ordered the salt for this year because we're trying to figure out what to do first, which way we want to go. I kind of anticipate that I'm in the worst of all the worlds here, because I have a feeling even if we got approval, we're going to find out it's like the rest of the world, 20 weeks, or 30 weeks, or 40 weeks for the cover. I don't know if I forgot to attach the estimates, and I hope they caught up eventually. I'm not sure, but we looked at it. Just the cover is $13,523. If they install it, it starts jumping up 18. Custom work 4,000 or 5,000. If they were to replace it, it would be 78,000. I think we can do the work, but it's like anything else. I know we can do the work. Let's put it that way. I have no doubt. We can put a new cover on it. But the problem is manpower, and when will we get this thing? I honestly think what's going to happen is if we get approval to buy the cover, we can buy the cover, order it, and in about January or February when it comes in, when it's too late for anything, we're going to probably have to try to make it through, but I'd like to get the cover on order. I'd like to also consider, instead of fighting that old dangerous one, to just go ahead and try to find time, and that's the reason for the extra money. It might cost up to $25,000, $35,000, but to put asphalt next to there, an asphalt slab, put the blocks on there, move the structure over, and then put the new tarp on it. I think that's what the best plan and the best, but I wanted to get approval to get started on it. And probably, like I said, it's gonna be up to, what did I say? The options are try to get one more year out of it. I think that's a given. Approve 35,000 for Public Works to begin doing it in-house. I just can't, unless you wanna pay 78,000 to have somebody to, or we could look for a bidding of it and try to get a better price. That would be an option. Or we could return and try to do it again. But what the recommendation is to let us try to do it in-house, procure the material, and attempt to get it done before the season. I mean, if they tell me they can get it in 2 weeks, then we'll have to pull off for about 2 weeks to do it. But I got a feeling it's like anything else. It's months away to get that cover.
Does the 35,000 include the asphalt?
Yes,
Moving of
asphalt, the barriers, and any, the custom fasteners, if we have to get new or different ones, and if we have to rent a lift to move the stuff over there. So it would not exceed that. In fact, that's probably a high estimate, but I'm not quite sure what materials running on that kind of stuff right now.
And we'll be able to reutilize obviously the blocks, but also the metal structure as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we can't do it until spring, we're gonna have to, we have blocks, we can move blocks around and leave that one up, because we gotta have something for that salt. I really need to get it ordered, because I know we can get a buy-in on that, so,
That's doing the asphalt in-house also?
yes.
How well will the asphalt hold up to all those big trucks and scoops and stuff
We'll do about,
with the salt?
yeah, we'll do several lifts to make it thick enough to handle it. But right now it's mud.
Yeah.
So we're trying to scoop it, we're putting clumps of mud in there, which doesn't work in the spreader, and that's why that huge pile in there is ruined, is mud all through it.
And essentially, worst case scenario would be that if the current one goes bunk, then we can't store salt,
Right.
more or less.
I think we can nurse it through. If that's what the plan is, we'll probably go out there and try to shore up those blocks that are falling Maybe
you're
drive
gonna-
some rods or
I think you're
something.
gonna have to nurse it until we can get the
Yes.
new one built.
Yes.
So,
Not only that, we're losing space because we can't go all the way to the back because the back has a spring or a mud hole and the water comes in on the back. It's been there for years.
washing out, yeah.
Washing it out, and that's what's creating mud. We were very fortunate this last storm didn't show up because we didn't realize that that back was muddy. I mean, Sean's new and I'm new. We didn't realize it was a mud pit back there. And we didn't have salt to do but one or two loads. So I'm glad we didn't have one more storm. So we didn't order any because we didn't have to waste any of it.
What's your peak salt usage time? I mean, January, February, maybe into March.
It could be as early as November.
Obviously, it's weather dependent, but
Farmer's Almanac says it's gonna be heavy.
yeah, I mean, we've seen some milder fall and into, fall seems to last till almost Christmas now.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but Farmer's Almanac is not being nice to us. It's predicting ugly.
And it's Kansas,
Yes.
it's unpredictable.
What we'd probably do is get in there and clean all the salt out and try to put the man sand that we use to mix in there, so at least we're not picking up. We'll put that in as a base for this winter. So,
Did you say how long it would take for us to do the work to do the work ourselves for the new structure?
I did 4 of them down in Lynn County when I was there, and we were putting them up in a day's time.
Oh.
But that was the structure itself. I would say taking it down, cause we have to take the other one, possibly have to take the other one down to get the frame out. And that's the reason, I did not bid a frame, but it's all gonna be, timing.
I didn't know, like, it's gonna take, 4 bodies, 2 weeks to do this?
Yes, pretty
or-
much.
Oh, okay,
That would be
gotcha.
I think you put 10 working days in the report.
10 working days, probably with 3
Oh,
or
I'm
4
sorry.
people, yeah.
I think it would be worth it to do it in-house for the 10 days and save the city a lot of money. And you're capable and feel confident that you could lay the asphalt.
Yeah, that I did 4 of them in Lynn County, and I'd put our crew up against theirs any day of the week. They're good. We've got a
Did you-
good bunch.
Most of those did you do during the winter months? Or
Now, we did it during the summer down there, but
Okay.
I got very lucky. I bought them from KP or Evergy, and there was 2, and actually there was 7, so we started sticking them up everywhere. So,
The only reason why I ask, cause I assume just knowing construction and public works that they're not nearly as busy in the winter time, other than when we have a big storm, but not quite as busy as they are in the summer months where they
I
have
think we will
mowing.
be this year because we're gonna do a lot of crack sealing up till,
Yeah.
once you have a storm and you put the salt out there, your crack sealing
Oh,
is
yeah.
done. So if we may crack seal till January or February, or we may be done in November, but we haven't even started because we're running we're short people. We're really, really short.
And you still got mowing on your plate too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as soon as the mowing's done, we're wanting to get back on crack seal because the goal is to crack seal enough that it sets over winter and then the chip seal what we're crack sealing this fall. So it's a real tough gig right now with a short crew. I'm running 50% on the street parks. I've got
Bodies.
about half a crew. But we do have some interviews this week, so.
Well, I hate to ask you to carry another brick.
Yeah.
But $50,000 savings is
Yeah.
pretty significant, so, I would be in favor of, again, sorry to give another brick to you
Yeah,
while you're
yep.
treading
I
water,
think it would be
but
best.
He seems pretty confident in it too.
Yeah.
So
Well, especially done quite a few of them before, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna be a new thing that you're gonna have to figure out.
And if those-
I feel good with the in-house strategy.
So let's say that your prediction is accurate and we order it and it shows up in January. Is this something, as long as we have, appropriate weather in January, would you do it?
We would just go ahead and
Or we
make
just
sure
wait
the
till the
structure's
season's
ready to
over?
go, and then when we're confident the storm, I mean, it's over, the winter season's
The
over.
season is over.
We would then move it over
Yeah.
and finish it,
Kinda
cause we'll be
stuck
using
the old one at that point.
we'll be, yeah, and then we'll use the framework off the old one. We're just buying the tarp that pulls over.
So none of this will affect this winter season
No,
unless it
we're
shows
gonna-
up at our doorstep tomorrow.
Unless they tell me, oh, we got one on the floor, we'll have it to you tomorrow, then we'll get right on it. We'll be using a new
Yeah,
one.
realistically, we're looking at this being used next
Next
season.
So preemptive strike.
If we got something in on time, I would be shocked.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Do you need the dollar amount, Ashley, in this motion?
Did you say 13,523?
Did I
Oh, I thought it was 35.
I might be wrong.
I wrote both down too.
That was for
I
the
actually
cover.
did, what was it, 35 or?
Up to 35,000.
Up to 35 with everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the initial cover. Yeah. Okay.
The initial cover was 30, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve repairs to the salt dome to be performed by the City of Spring Hill Public Works Department up to $35,000.
Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of purchase of water meters and software for meter reading tools. And Mr. Messer, this is also you.
Okay, here's another one that's a very, I don't have exact total numbers, and I'm gonna ask for up to $250,000 because I know it's gonna run that high. What we have, we stopped replacing meters as a routine practice in the past. Not, a few years ago, they were directed not to keep replacing meters every year. A good program will replace maybe 10% a year, because as the meters get older, they favor the customer. And, well, that's nice for the residents, it doesn't help for the expenditures. But we're being forced our hands are being forced now, because the meters, and we have 500 of them out there, are the old touch style. I mean, I guess you've seen the guys walking around, they have the little thing on their hip, and they have like a wand that they touch the cap of the meter, and it reads it and records it into the battery or the pack on their side, which they take and download in City Hall. That will no longer be supported by January 1, 2024, those will no longer work. The software goes away, the support goes away. So we're being forced, our hands are kind of being forced to replace 500 that we have out there right now. Another thing is what we've been doing, we've been nickel and diming it to death. We're buying 25 meters at a time. So I wanted to come to you and say, I need 500, so I don't want to do 25 this week. 2 weeks from now, do 25. 2 weeks, do 25 to try to keep our head above water. I wanted to get 25 or 500 to get started, and this is just the residential meters to get started, and then we'll put 1 or 2 people on them to get them all changed out by the deadline where the meters won't be. Otherwise, we have to read them by stopping, taking the lid off, looking in it, and time consuming, and it's, plus these meters are old, they're not reading accurately anymore, I would think. So we're wanting to kind of do that to get enough meters, and plus getting the meters is a nightmare. I talked to Pat and said, Pat, we're really getting hard. I want to use your purchasing authority and buy up to $10,000 worth because they're getting hard to get. So we ordered 42 because we're using them in these subdivisions. They come and say, we're ready to do 20 houses. We do 20 meters. All of a sudden our stock keeps getting depleted. Well, the delivery on those is February right now. So if I order these, we're looking at maybe April. So they're tough to get. The other side of the street on this too is our industrial meters are old and they are failing, or they're just can't be read the same way. They're falling in the same So they're 2 and 3 and 4,000 a throw for those. So I included money in there to get those. I also make it part of the request, I want to buy a test bench. That's going to be several $1,000s so that when we take them out, we can test them, find out. And, or if we have questions, right now, they're being sent off if somebody can test it, or we just say, okay, we can't agree that X amount of water was used, so let's go with this number when somebody challenges it. But we would like to be able to test these meters. If we pull one out, it doesn't seem, or the readings don't seem right, I want to be able to test them in-house to find out for sure what's happening. And quite honestly, it's tied to the water loss issue. How much are we losing through these meters? I think we're losing up 20 or 30% through some of them. So that will add up over time.
That's what I was just about to say, is this is gonna hurt on the onset, but eventually it'll
Yes.
level out and end up saving us money, 10 years down the road.
And the goal is, now that we're getting a little bit more clarity, to set up a program to replace these meters on a regular basis instead of, right now, if it breaks, we replace it. We don't replace them proactively. We would like to get there.
We gotta catch up first.
Pardon?
We gotta catch up first.
Yes, this will help us catch up. And I've been working with Rhonda pretty closely on this, trying to figure out, because she is kind of a split duty here. She does the software and the readings, and I do the hardware out in the field. And we're both pretty well committed to figuring out where the water loss is. Is it in the meters? Where is it? And fix this. And this is one of the steps we're going to use to figure this out.
Do we have a process in place to pinpoint which ones are losing the most water and replace those ones first, so we're saving the most money in a staggered process?
Well, no. Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer, because what we're prioritizing is the ones that are going to fail.
Just age.
The old one.
The age, the ones that are, we're not going to be able to read anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, we're going to try to figure out of the industrial meters if any of those don't seem to be, and we're going to hit those. But mainly it's the residential to get caught up on the ones we can't read anymore. Eventually, and over time, we will not be reading meters. They'll be read from electronically, and we will not be sending people out. But right now, and that was also part of the technology and software to get that started and maybe purchased to put on the towers and start, these meters are capable to be.
That's what I was just gonna ask, are all these new meters capable to
New
do
meters
that?
will be capable for that.
Because the wand touch style that's really old tech. Like that's
Yeah.
old copper line, house phone kind of stuff is how old that is, which is probably why it's gonna be not usable
Obsolete.
anymore.
We have
Like we're just so
approximately,
far behind
Yeah.
still using that technology that
we have about 50 right now, that'll be the first 50, that are being read by lift the lid, maybe tap the thing to get it to read, and then read it. So we're gonna start an aggressive replacement program. You might be thinking, why in the heck weren't we doing it all along? I have a new staff down there. I have a new partner in here on this, and we're developing a plan to get ahead of it now. We've been behind.
and the new technology also saves on manpower and hours because you can read them faster with less people, so you get more readings quicker. And like you said in here, sometimes 4 to 6 days to do a full reading. You can cut that down to 1 or 2 or whatever with less people.
And
So it helps with efficiency as well, getting the better technology.
I'm struggling, like I said, with the manpower issue all across Public Works. And like Monday, for example, we're gonna pull them off meter readings, meter replacements to find enough people for a crew to do a street project.
Yeah.
So if I can gain manpower by being able to do this remotely or quicker or more efficiently, like I said, there was 4 generations. One, you always lifted the lid. The second one was the touch. The third one is you drive by or walk by and it's close enough, it reads it.
Drive the street.
And the newest one is gonna be doing from a tower.
Yeah,
We looked at this tower and it's not high enough. So we have to find a spot in the south, but eventually that's what we want, to be able to just pull it up on a computer. Another part, and that's gonna fall on Rhonda and her people, is some of these meters that are out there have not been entered properly over time. Partly because it may be operator error, partly the software switching from this one to this one, it dropped information. So some of these meters, the sizes aren't in there, the multiplier's not in there, and as we replace these, we'll do it right, and this stuff will go in and we'll make sure, we'll be catching up that way, and it's gonna be a lot. I mean, we got some that are in basements of buildings. We'll get them outside, stuff like that. So this is a big jump. I know it's a lot of money, but instead of asking for, or just paying for 25 meters every 2 weeks to keep a stock for everything, I think that's not deceptive, but it's a hidden cost. This is more upfront to me. You're seeing what I'm doing and what we're asking for. But we need to get those replaced as soon as we can.
Do we get any kind of discount from the supplier by buying 500 at a time versus?
I tried and I
525?
couldn't. I tried.
It's worth a shot, right?
They said, we're already giving you a corporate discount.
That's it.
And we can't
That's at
give you
600.
another one. But that's a big, I mean, it's a big order. Like I said, I put in there 500 and then they told me about the 50 that they're reading by hand. So we probably will up it to 550 when we do the order, but.
How quick do you think you'll get them out? Like we're getting 500 of them. How long do you think it'll take to have them all out there working for us?
Before January 1st,
Depends on when they
2024.
come in.
Well, from when you have them, you know.
Okay.
My guess is that if we place the order tomorrow, we're not gonna see those meters till April.
Right.
So we will have them all in place by January 1.
Okay.
We have to aggressively go after it because, you can't even buy, we only have one of the ones on, and hopefully it'll last, that does the touch. We only have one left. The other one's unrepairable. So we're on thin ice right now.
Yeah.
You can actually, some of the stuff will read by cell phone. You can walk by and it'll download onto your cell phone. So we might be using that at some point too. But the recommendation is authorize Public Works and the Finance Director working together to spend up to $250,000 over the next 12 months to modernize the operation. This will all be from the enterprise money.
That was the comment I was gonna make, is that this is not taxpayer funded. It is funded from the revenue of the two enterprise funds. It'll be split between water and wastewater because we use the meters to bill for both.
And if I were guessing, if we're losing as much as I think through these old meters, it'll pay for itself quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
When the enterprise funds has limited things that you can spend that money on, and this is one of those things that it fits the bill, fits the category, so it's a good spend out of that.
Yes, that is correct. It is, the funds there have to be spent on that operation. Can't
Gotta be water related or
Yeah,
something.
we can't do streets or anything like that. It has to be related. Another option to fund this, it is really clear in the ARPA agreements that you could fund it through ARPA, but I don't think that's necessary because the enterprise, that's what they do, is reinvest the money from the operation into the operation. So that's, I feel, a better use of the money as opposed to ARPA funds that can be used on something else.
Yep.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the Public Works Director and Finance Director to spend up to $250,000 for new water meters, software, and hardware.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item is consider approval of agreement 2023 Fire Protection Services, Johnson County Fire District Number 2, and we'll start out with a presentation from Chief Francis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Get hooked up here. Okay, I don't know how many of the council members know me. I've been here, on and off for about 25 years, but tonight I'm here in a different capacity. So I'm no longer the fire chief of Fire District 2. I'm the fire administrator for Johnson County, who represents Fire District Number 2. Tonight we have Dennis Myers, the fire chief of Fire District 1. I asked Chief Myers to attend. There's been a lot going on in the last couple of years. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, but I want to make sure everybody leaves here with accurate information. What I've got on the screen, just to start off with, so I can tell everybody what that is, that's the city of Spring Hill and the salmon color, if you will, north of the Miami-Johnson County line. That's the boundaries of fire, or within the boundaries of Fire District 2, but you can see the city limits. Now the blue-gray box in there from 207th Street to South Street, Woodland to Lone Elm, is the old part of Spring Hill. That's in the contract area. And everything in Miami County that's in the city limits is in the city's fire service contract area. So when you look at that, all this area right here, that's the contract area. All this other stuff in the growing area, that's in the fire district, so that's not part of the contract. So let me switch gears here.
So for budget purpose, the blue part is the fire and the salmon part is the no fire.
Correct.
Right?
Okay. Let me give you a little rundown on what happened with Fire District 2, just so everybody here is aware. About 3 years ago, I was informed that Overland Park was going to build their own fire station near Blue Valley Southwest High School. And I worked a plan to transition our district, basically split it into two. We were going to lose 10 square miles of our district and about $1.5 million revenue. Doing nothing was going to end up reducing staffing, laying people off, closing a fire station. Would not have a good outcome for the insurance rating of the fire district. So I came up with a plan where 22 of our employees would go to work for Johnson County Fire District 2, and they would manage and run the day-to-day operation out of the Fire District 2 owned fire station in Spring Hill. The Overland Park Fire Department took over operation of two stations in Stillwell, one on Metcalf, one on Mission Road. And 22 of our employees went to work for the Overland Park Fire Department. All this occurred November 28th, 2021. So just last fall this took place. I stuck around 1 quarter and I retired as the chief of Fire District 2 on March 31st. The county employed me on April 1st as the fire services administrator. One of my duties is the oversight of Fire District 2, its existing contracts, and the assets that are owned by Fire District 2. Fire District 2 still owns the fire station in Spring Hill, still owns all the apparatus assigned to that building, as well as 2 other fire stations in Stillwell. When this change occurred on November 28th, the Overland Park Fire Department, that was the day they opened their new station in the 12400 block of West 175th Street. So that station is covering the central corridor of unincorporated Johnson County Fire District Number 2. So all these changes occurred at that time. So Fire District 1 is actually providing their service. Many of the same people that were here providing the service are still in the station providing the same service, they just wear a different uniform. So that's kind of the history. So let me get into this PowerPoint. All right, so this is kind of an overview here. November 28th, when it happened, Fire District 2 still owns the assets. We're still replacing the assets. we're funding through a contract with District 1, 21 fire service positions for the Spring Hill Station, meaning there's 7 people on duty on a 24-hour shift. And I'll get into who's there staffing wise here in just a second. We still have contract with Overland Park, the contract with Overland Park is to pay the employment for them to run the service east of Lackman. We still have a contract with Miami County Fire District Number 2. Okay, in the Spring Hill Station, now I should add that when we closed the station at 191st and Lackman, we moved most of those personnel into the Spring Hill Station in addition to the crews that were already here. So when the station closed on Lackman, we almost doubled the staffing at the Spring Hill Station to accommodate, because there's a lot of back-to-back calls in your community. There's a Johnson County Med-Ac ambulance there. And I should note that Fire District 2 pays the facilities and utility costs for that county ambulance. We don't get any revenue from Johnson County. Where there's no lease agreement at this time, but Fire District 2 funds that, their housing. So you'll see there's a battalion chief, a fire captain, a fire lieutenant, 4 firefighters, 2 paramedics with Johnson County Med-Ac. And one of the 7 people on duty at the fire department is a paramedic in addition to the 2 Med-Ac paramedics. The minimum staffing drops down 1 firefighter. So when we came up with this plan, we wanted to be able to have the battalion chief, 2 fire crews, and a Johnson County Med-Ac ambulance to run your city. And it's worked out quite well. We're 10 months into this now, and it's going very well. The apparatus that's assigned in your station, we have an engine, it's a 2013 Pierce pumper truck. We have a ladder truck. It's 2009 75-foot Pierce ladder truck. We have a relatively brand new, what we call tender, which is a pumper tanker. We have a heavy squad. We have a brush rig, the battalion chief vehicle. We have an ATV and a boat. And we also have a reserve apparatus, but it's presently not in that building. It's another location being used. Part of this transition plan, a lot of it involved finances of the district, long-range planning, and CIP matters. So the district, anticipating that the fleet was going to have to be replaced, heavy fire apparatus is typically replaced in the 10 to 15 year range. And right now it's taking as long as 30 months to order a fire truck, believe it or not. It used to be less than a year. Now we've been told it's about 30 months. In December, we did a $3.2 million bond issue, general obligation bond, to replace our engines and the ladder truck. And I'll just tell you here, and we placed this order before another cost increase went into effect February 1st, or we'd have paid another $100,000. Just to replace the engine up here, not including equipment's $825,000. The ladder truck, $1,150,000, not including equipment. So we really have over $2 million worth of new equipment that's ordered for your station in Spring Hill. We anticipate, well, we were originally told summer of 2023. Realistically, it's probably not going to be there till 2024. But we anticipated it was going to be delayed. And we did just replace the tanker truck, or the tender, a year ago, and we paid out of reserves for that. So one of the things historically we've looked at, as I've spoken to this body over the years, we've had a long relationship, at times tense, with old fire boards and council members and mayors over the difference in mill levies. So the city has its fire service mill levy, which historically has been anywhere from 2 to 4 mills lower for fire protection than what the citizens of Fire District 2 are paying on their general fund tax levy. Now the city contract area gets a pass on any bond debt because it's not part of our taxing district. They can't help us pay the cost of these trucks we just ordered. The people, however, in the fire district part of the city are paying that bond debt. we have always wanted and tried hard to close the gap on the separation, on the difference on the mill levy, because literally in some cases, there's been people living across the street from one another. One guy pays 13 and the other guy's paying 16. And there's a valid argument that's been there. So we're getting closer than we have ever been to close that financial gap. So I'm illustrating here the past 5 years of what your city's fire service levy has been. Right now it's 13.06. And right now Fire District 2's general fund levy is 16.111. And ours has been fairly static over the years, pretty much like yours, within a little fluctuation, half a mil one way or the other. So this contract proposal has a lot to do with our transition. Now, when we came up with this transition plan with District 1 in Overland Park, we never intended to have a long-term contract with Fire District 1. We intended eventually that the territory west of Lackman Road would be transferred over to Fire District 1. But there are many processes, governmental processes, at the Board of County Commissions, the Fire Board, City Council, State of Kansas, that may be involved in doing some of these actions. Okay, so let me talk first what we'd like to see for 2023 and how we get to where we would like to be. What we're proposing for 2023 is a one-year agreement where the city matches Fire District 2's proposed general fund tax levy at 14.125. Now, I will tell you, Fire District 2's already published a budget. If you've seen it, it shows 14.621. Now, that was done before I had started conversations with city staff. And we talked to them about, is there any way we can close this gap? And we, through some adjustments of our contracts, we were able to lower some expenses. And we can go as low as 14.125 and would like to have the city match us at that. And I can lower, or Fire District 2 will lower, if the city agrees to this, Fire District 2's mill levy will go, the general fund levy will go from 16.111 to 14.125. So that means the people in the taxing district part of the city will get a slight reduction, but the contract people in your city will get a slight increase. Kind of meet in the middle. But 14.125 is about as low as we can take it. We would like the city to meet us there for the value of the 2023 contract. Now, one of the things we've talked about over the years is, can we eliminate the contract? Would the city be interested in joining Fire District 2, including the Miami County portion of the city of Spring Hill? There is legislation on the books, my understanding, that a city that straddles a county line such as yours, that a fire district can also go into another neighboring county. There is laws on the books to allow that to occur. So we do know that Spring Hill could do that. We also know that legislation was recently changed about 5 years ago for Gardner to vote to join Johnson County Fire District 1. So we do know that that is a mechanism to come into the district. I'm not saying it's the only mechanism. We believe it's one mechanism that the governing body of Spring Hill could join Fire District 2. It would need to occur prior to July 1st to be effective the following January. So what we would like to see is the one-year agreement with 23 with the financial arrangement based off equalizing the city's fire levy to Fire District 2's general fund levy of 14.125. And then in 2024, consider sometime between now and July 1st of 2023, consider joining Fire District number 2. Once that occurs, there is no more contract. You're part of the taxing district. Now, I will tell you that my understanding that the bonds that Fire District 2 has, and there's currently 2 bond issues that Fire District 2 is paying for, they will not be part of a new district if the contract area becomes part of District Two. Tyler, I think you'd say that that was the correct statement? Okay. So, you wouldn't inherit any bond debt. Those bonds would be paid off with the geographic area that existed when they were implemented. So I know I've said a lot so far, but I'm almost through with this, and does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. So to recap, what's being proposed, 1-year agreement with Fire District 2 for 2023. The contract payment is determined using the proposed Fire District 2 General Fund Tax Levy for 2023, which will be 14.125 if you approve this, times the value of the assessed valuation of the contract area, which generates approximately $990,662 is my understanding. And then in 2024, if the governing body would approve coming under Fire District 2, we would like to see that. Now, there's probably going to be, besides the governing body Spring Hill, I'm sure the Fire Board and probably the Board of County Commission also has to approve that action, would be my guess. And then if these things get done, and I should add that Spring Hill can't join Fire District 1 because they're not contiguous to Fire District 1. We really have to do Fire District 2 first to join Fire District 1 second, if that makes sense. But it is Fire District 2's desire that if we get these next 2 years and we follow the processes required by law, that January 1st, 2025, then the territory currently within the boundaries of Johnson County Fire District 2 west of Lackman, we would transfer into Johnson County Fire District number 1. There's been discussion with Deputy County Manager about this, who I'm sure has already spoken to Chairman Eilert, although I can't make promises because it requires board action, but there's been a discussion about representation on Fire Board in the event that the city were to come under Fire District 2, that we recognize that you all would want representation on a board of directors. That's been acknowledged, and I can't imagine that that would be a problem. So with that said, I want to give you a little history of Fire District 1's mill levy, and like with Chief Myers here tonight, if Chief Myers has anything to add, their proposed levy for their 23 budget is 13.582. So it's approximately, from where the city's at today at 13.076, where Fire District 2 is going to be at 14.125. You came under District 1 with these same mills, you'd be rolling back about $0.5 approximately, if everything else stayed the same. So you can see, with the exception of 2020, their mill levy's been in the 13s and 12s. So I wanted to illustrate that the long-range plan would be to transition the territory into District 1. And then I might add that once that occurs, then District 1 would own the fire station and the fire apparatus. And that was really the plan we came up with during this transition. But we realized it was going to take a series of steps over a couple of years to accomplish all of this transition. Until then, Fire District 2 contracts with District 1. But the goal would be to eliminate contracts and put it all in their taxing district, and then it just becomes an extension of their district. As I indicated here, the governing body Spring Hill would need to take action between now and July 1st, 2023 to join Fire District 2. And then it would take Board of Directors of Fire District 1, Fire District 2, and BOCC approval to transfer the territory from Fire District 2 into Fire District 1. So, that was a lot to say in a short period of time. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. Is there anything I can help clarify on this issue?
A clarity concern. I probably misunderstood you. I thought I heard you say that what you were proposing would, hopefully lower the mill for the contracted area, but it would also raise it for the
The other,
district.
the other way around on
Oh.
on the immediate, for 2023,
Yeah,
your levy is for the contract area, which is Lone Elm to Woodland, 207th to South Street, and everything in Miami County side of Spring Hill. Your levy's presently 13.076. It would jump to 14.125. The levy for the people that live in Fire District 2 in the growing, developing area on the northern part of the town are currently paying 16.111 mills on the general fund levy. That levy goes down to, now there's some bond levy added, the overall mill levy would reduce 0.95, but their general fund levy would go from 16.111 to 14.125. And like I said, the contract area gets a pass on the bond debt. They don't have to pay that
okay. So I
unless,
just had 'em-
unless they join the district and a new bond issue were to be done. And we just did a bond issue last year and don't foresee doing another bond issue anytime soon.
that, I just wanted, thank you, that does
You're
clear it
welcome.
up.
Any other questions for Chief Francis or former Chief Francis?
How much extra does the bond add to those in the new area?
So we have, trying to think, the new bond that we did, this year we're paying the first year's bond payments out of the general fund. Next year we collect a mill levy for that, and I believe it's 1.1 approximately. So the overall mill levy, if the city elects to approve this agreement for 2023, the total mill levy, I believe, is 16.068. I don't have that here in front of me, but I believe that's the number for the total levy. Of that, 14.125 is general fund levy, the remainder is bond levy. So it's probably around 2 mills total in bond debt. And that's paying for, like I stated earlier, it's about $2 million worth of equipment that's going in your fire station up here. And I should also add, one of the other things about the timeline of this, as Fire District 2 winds down, as we, right now we're only a taxing entity, but half of that will most likely go away and become part of District 1's taxing entity. So when that occurs, we have the transition of assets and we have reserve funds and things like that. So one of the things that's going to be done that we're looking at is doing some renovations and possibly a small expansion to the fire station in Spring Hill to make sure that others aren't inheriting that debt. That would occur before these other actions with District 1 would happen. So that's what's being planned. I'm currently in the works with an architect to draw up some preliminary plans and get a cost proposal on doing a small addition and renovation to the inside. We've simply outgrown that facility. There's 9 people living in there 24/7 now. That facility wasn't really built for that many people. And we have a tremendous need for apparatus bay space. So we're currently evaluating what we can do on that. So beside the investment in the apparatus, it's likely that there's going to be a large investment on the building itself. And the other thing I should note, the glass plant donated that property to us in 2002. And so it's got a deed restriction that if it ever is not a fire station, it reverts back to the glass plant ownership. So it's always going to be a fire station, that I can assure you.
Is this something we gotta decide tonight?
I don't know that you need to decide tonight, however.
Or what timeline do you need from us?
My critical time, now I'm not, the 2023 budget portion is what's critical. The city taking action on joining the fire district is nothing that needs to occur tonight.
Right.
I would strongly suggest, taking your time, evaluating it, going through all the legalities of that, and having more discussion about that. Our budget hearing is before the board, is August 25th.
Okay.
And our mill levy that we're presenting, if you all approve this agreement, is gonna be much lower than what was published.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out how I can get this levy as low as possible to get closer to Spring Hills levy to make this work.
So that, our next meeting is.
Our
the
next
23rd.
meeting is
Yeah,
the
and
25th.
so we've got August,
Time for us to switch over for a minute.
okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
And this line item was originally, Mr. Dunley was gonna present this, so he's not really interjecting here. He was on this list to present.
Yes,
it.
what was just presented, and thank you, Mr. Francis, is the goal from Johnson County's perspective. Understand there is no fire district two board. It's called the Johnson County Board, the Board of Johnson County Commissioners. The Board of Johnson County Commissioners is Fire District 2's board. And that's how they act. They will be passing the budget for 2023 on August 25th at their meeting that begins at 9 a.m. So in terms of the question, do you have to make a decision tonight? The answer is yes, sir.
Okay.
And what decision you are making is the decision in regard to 2023.
Yeah, just for the 1-year contract.
Just for the 1-year contract, and the purpose of the contract, Mayor Berkey and Mr. Burton spent a great deal of effort to try to come up with some equalization for citizens of Spring Hill, because a large percentage of the city's residents are paying significantly more for the exact same service. And so that's what's before you is tonight, is should we sign this contract for next year to enter into a contract that will, number one, not only equalize, but bring the rate down overall a little more than just the equalization would. So that's part of what you're considering. Now, the long-term plan as laid out and maybe the county's goal, Fire District 2's former self's goal, whether or not there's going to be consolidation, there are multiple questions as to how that happens. Number one, which way the Board of Johnson County Commissioners goes. I'm not sure if that's one or two. Which way the legislature goes is also, will jump the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners. So those are complicated questions, in all honesty, and I thought that former Chief Francis did an excellent job of laying out the goals. However, that's not for you to decide tonight. That's what's envisioned. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah,
Mayor?
future plan.
But many of those decisions are outside of your hands. And I don't mean to make that, but they are within the power of the legislature, then the Board of County Commissioners, then the city to agree or not. And so there are a number of issues. However, what is before you tonight is whether or not you wish to entertain this contract equalizing the mill levy for the contract area and for essentially the north and east side of town.
Non-contract area.
Right. The other thing that's important to note is the city's growing. This contract covers the growing city. The city is growing in two ways. The city is growing in developments within current city property. This contract also covers any additional annexed land in the city. It's an important point. So the growth that we're talking about is both the expansion of the city and the growth within the existing city limits. So it covers both, and that is advantageous to the citizens of the city, both those in the contract area and those in the levy area. So, but yes, to be clear, that is the question that's before you tonight.
Any other questions for Mr. Dunley? If not, I entertain a motion.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I think we should equalize the two areas so that it makes it more fair on the mill levy, because those that are not in the contracted area will still have to pay more anyway with the bond that will be part of the new growth area. And if it doesn't get equalized, then it's gonna be even more expensive for those in the not contracted area to have that extra bond on the mill levy. But I like the point that it would equalize that and also bring the rate down for everybody by joining that.
Was that a motion?
Sure.
I think that was a comment.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the 2023 agreement between the City of Spring Hill, Kansas and Fire District Number 2 of Johnson County, Kansas.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. The only announcement I really have is I'm excited that the new city administrator is starting on Monday. So that'll be a sigh of relief for Mr. Burton, and then also exciting for the rest of the staff to have further direction. And yeah, so that's really all I have. Mrs. Roth?
I get asked the question a lot of how's it going on city council, and my most recent response to that question has been, I really feel like we're getting things done. So we're talking about spending money and projects and all kinds of different wonderful things that are coming down the pipe. I really feel like this is your feel good moment. I really feel like we're getting things done and we're really serving the community. So it's because of, you know, everybody up here as well as the city and the staff and all the department heads. So I just was feeling very positive about what's going on. So thank you to everybody in this room and everybody that's listening.
Thank you. Mr. Van Houten?
Second. No report. I would agree with everything Mrs. Ross said, so agreed, and no report.
Mr. Peel?
I just wanted to point out that one of the items on the consent agenda was the chip and seal for Victory. So
Yes.
another good street project. Victory has been a desperately needed repaired road in Spring Hill, probably one of our worst, along with Lincoln. So
Yeah, those two I think are the two worst.
same meeting,
Tackle
two big road projects, two really bad roads that are going to get some much needed TLC. So
Yeah.
along with Mrs. Roth, that things are getting done, and really like seeing things get done.
And some things that have needed done for years and years. So it's nice to get them on the books. We can talk about them forever, but it's nice to actually put some action behind those words. Mr. Young's not here, so we'll go with Mrs. North.
I had talked to Johnson County Public Works about why 191st to 183rd is closed on Ridgeview, and they are widening the little bridge before you get to 183rd. And the structural foundation is not good on it, and it will be done probably around Christmas or January at the latest. It will probably be 2 lanes with a turn lane that will be going in there. And I had a question from a lot of the individuals that live on Ridgeview Road about, is there any talk about lowering the speed limit from 191st to 199th to 35 miles per hour? but during school hours, having it be 25 miles per hour. And I don't know who we need to ask about that, but it's been requested that there be speed limit reduction where the subdivision is.
That would probably be something that would have to be, at least Chief Henson would have to be involved in that discussion at least, with that part.
And that's all I have.
All right.
I forgot to mention too, Johnson County, Chip and Sealed, Woodland Road between 207th and 199th also. That we got to the bottom of that earlier this week. So another road that we didn't have to do or pay
Yeah.
for that a lot of our citizens use. So
Yeah. Slowly but surely, that's been one of my highest priorities. I know a lot of the council up here, one of their highest priorities is getting these roads fixed. So we're tackling them slowly and surely.
And I was thinking too, about what Mr. Boswell was talking about. What can we do if those slabs were put over water lines? And if the one broke, 6 inches is a lot of water. So,
I have to do some research on that.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk with the department head.
I'll dig
and figure
into
it out.
that on my own for sure.
Yep,
but
I've got notes on here to talk to city administrator on it, so we'll figure something out. Mr. Dunley.
Yes, I do have one thing, and it's more of a question than a comment from me. We need to conduct a 90-minute executive session in which I'll be covering civil rights matters and related training while addressing the city's issues related to them. And in speaking with Mayor Berkey, he suggests that we shoot for an off Thursday. After the school year has started. So the question is, and this needs to happen fairly quickly. September 15th, if you're available for September 15th. If not, the 29th, September has early meetings in September, the 2nd and 4th
For the next
Thursdays are early.
Yeah, we got 5 Thursdays.
it's a 5 Thursday month.
So either the 15th, the 29th, and the starting time at your discretion.
I can probably
15th works for me.
Yeah, I can make either of those work. So indifferent.
Yeah, 15th looks like it works fine for me unless my wife added something that I don't know about.
Okay, then I will get with clerk and schedule something for the 15th, special meeting on 9:15.
Did you said it was 45 minutes roughly?
No,
Oh,
90.
Would you guys
90, I'm sorry.
Hour and a half.
Okay, hour
Would
and
you
a half.
guys prefer a 6 or a
That's
7?
the halftime break.
Would you guys?
6, but whatever.
I'd love 6.
6 will be fine for
6
me.
would be fine for me.
6 is fine.
6 p.m.
I have an early bedtime.
All right, is that it, Mr. Dunley?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Captain Khan.
It's on.
Yeah, we have a few things. We just wanted to report that National Night Out was a pretty big success. We had 6 participating neighborhoods, probably over 200 people attended. We got to get out, talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of people. It was a really good time. We were really trying to make the rounds and get to everybody. We've selected 2 new community liaison officers. We kind of started introducing them at National Night Out. It's going to be Officer Jeremy Johnson and Officer Franco Gutierrez. You've probably seen Officer Johnson on the Facebook page. He's very active. Both of them are already doing a great job at that position. We've got several good officer candidates in the background phase and several more candidates that are applying. We've actually had pretty good success, almost all through word of mouth. So our officers are going out and actually recruiting for the city, which I think speaks very well of what we're doing here. We ordered the truck in December of 2021, the new patrol truck. We finally got word from Ford that they're going to start building it. So it should be here end of October, beginning of November. So it might actually be in service within a year of ordering it, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Race the fire truck, see who can get it.
Yeah. They said 30 months.
Yeah, probably. I think.
We're working on e-ticketing systems through Niche, the RMS system we already use. We purchased all of our equipment thus far, and we've had the printer mounts, the scanners, and the paper arrive. I'll be installing those into the cars starting next week. We're also working on the court, traffic and criminal codes. We're working with the city on getting all of those so we can upload them into the system and have everybody on the same page with that, along with the city's Encode system. We are one of 2 test agencies for the system. It's gonna be us and the park police. If we're successful in this test, then it's more than likely that every law enforcement agency in Johnson County will probably move to this system. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do you mind if I say something really quick?
Sure.
Sorry, I forgot to.
I was gonna tag a team on that too.
I forgot to say something, but I was so bummed that I missed National Night Out. I really wanted to participate in that. I was out of town, but while I was out of town, I was in Boston, and I'm sitting at an intersection, and I see this parade of police vehicles coming in front of us, and I mean, it went on and on and on. I thought it was a funeral procession, but some of the cars had stickers on them. It said NNO. And then I said, oh, yeah, this is a national event, obviously. But it was really cool that Spring Hill got to participate in that nationwide event along with these big time cities like Boston. And it was just cool that we're doing that here at this level as well. So that was really cool. But even though I didn't get to be here, I still at least got to see it and witness it in another spot. So
Yeah,
thank you for doing that and putting that together.
Yes, and I want to thank you guys as well. Me and my 2 youngest kids went and participated in one of the events, and they had a lot of fun. They got to get inside one of the police cars and turn the lights on, and I got to take a picture. I looked like they were, in the back of a police car.
So they said the front
Future.
and back.
Yeah. So they really enjoyed that, and then the fire department also came by as well, so we got to talk to some of them too. So they had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. So. All right, Madam Deputy Clerk.
No report.
Mrs. Dunn?
I thought I'd give you a quick update on the budget. I've had the opportunity to talk to 2 of the council members one-on-one, and my door is open. Any of you who'd like to come and talk about budget, I'm always open to that. I always learn and hope I pass information on as well. We're in pretty good shape on the budget. We have some dates coming up. Important one is the hearing for the revenue neutral, which is August 25th. And that is a time we aren't presenting budget. It's not our time to tell the public. It is the time for the public to tell us. And so that hearing will be at the next council meeting. I would also like if you guys, am asking you to schedule a budget work session next Thursday, August the 18th, if you're available. I'm recommending 6 to 8 p.m. I'll stay as long as you want, or we can go home early, however you'd like to do that. My goal of that session is not for you to give me numbers and tell me what to do. It's to give you some preliminary ideas. I would never want to come to you with a budget book for you to approve that you haven't, 1, really had input to, or 2, never seen it before. And so I think that's an opportunity for me and the team to hear your ideas, as well as the directors and department heads to give you their input as well. And of course, it would be a public meeting, but as a work session.
And you're wanting to do that the 18th,
If you're available,
a week
yes,
from today? Okay.
at your
I
convenience.
think I'm available.
Would we have the budget prior to that work session?
I would hope so, yes.
Okay.
That's a challenge for
pressure.
me. No pressure, none. We have a lot of the details in, and I was telling Mayor Berkey earlier and told Councilman Peel, we're now managing all the tiny details into that budget, and they can add up to a lot pretty quickly, and I'm not afraid of anything that I see there.
The only
I'm not in a panic mode or, Lord, where am I gonna cut? It's not like that. I feel like it's coming together. There are high points and low points.
I feel like having the budget in advance would be helpful for at least myself. I would prefer to go
Right.
through it just like, our
Sure,
agendas. Go
absolutely.
through it prior, that way I can come with my questions. And we don't have to nickel and dime each item and do line by line unless somebody has a comment on it. We can pick out the things that we had questions on to
Yeah,
manage everybody's.
that would be my goal, to have it to you in
Okay.
advance. And I also wanted to let you know that the budget numbers and mill levies that the fire department presented are the ones that I've been working with in this budget. So that was, nothing there was a surprise to me.
Cool.
And that's it.
I'm good for the 18th.
Yeah, I think I'm good for it.
I think so.
What time?
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8, she said.
You guys can set the time, obviously, if you prefer a different time.
Good with that. Yep.
I guess we couldn't do it on the 25th, could we, beforehand?
What's that?
There's no way that we could do that meeting on the 25th beforehand, before the public hearing.
We sure could. You'd have to start at, 5 PM or something, or 4 prior,
Probably
so you get a break in there, whichever you'd prefer.
I would really rather do it next week and then have another week in between to
I
be
think-
able to adjust or soak it in or, go through different ideas and all that kind of stuff. It'll also, that'll give the public an opportunity to listen to the work session that could change or adjust their research or their thought processes too, and change some of the comments that they might have for the hearing. So I'd really like to have the time in between them.
I think having time between them would be helpful for not only ourselves to process, but like you said, the public to process as well.
I think just timing wise, just a sooner date is always better when we're talking about budget. Okay, well, we'll work on that and go from there.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jones,
Nothing to report, thank you.
Mr. Messer.
Oh, I have a few things, of course. Update on Veterans Lake. We're working with, trying to do the flag portion as you spoke. We're working with some area contractors to try to get the flag area cut out, and been working with Larry Reynolds on that, and the jetty. So we're continuing to work on Veterans Lake. Had conversations today on it. The Aquatic Center, its last day is gonna be Sunday. It'll be closing down. It was pretty successful. It's a shame we have to close down so early, because I went there today and the place was packed, but lifeguards have to go back to school, so. We are not resting on the streets portions, and, I mean, we did some successes here today, some stuff, but our next targets are gonna be Woodland, because, we need to fix those areas. That double chip is just not holding up. So we're gonna look at that, and we're gonna pivot toward Lone Elm. Like I was saying earlier, we're a little bit struggling because we have so many openings. But one of the areas I've gotten a call every day, sometimes 2 or 3 calls on 183rd and 169th. The asphalt's kind of sliding down the hill. We're gonna be in there Monday to mill that out and fix that area, but I just can't get there sooner because I don't have the 6 or 7 people that it's gonna take to do it safely, so we weren't gonna push it. Other than that, trying to move forward, trying to keep our heads up on stuff, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you all and have a good night.